orbiting tech trolls are making excuses for Elon. So it's not just Fox News, it's people like the CEO of Palantir, who you mentioned, which is, can you explain a little bit maybe about what Palantir does? What I know is they're basically like a massive surveillance company that works with like defense contracts and weapons manufacturers and things like this.
Yeah, pretty much they take a lot of the data. If there's like this mass data collection apparatus that
Mhm.
a lot of surveillance companies would have, that a lot of government agencies like the NSA would have, say the FBI, the CIA, things like that. They're surveilling, they're getting in all this data. They need some way to process that data and to theoretically understand what is going on in it. So Palantir makes these like platforms, these tools that supposedly inject all this data and kind of make it readable, make it understandable to these various agencies. And as you say, they initially worked with, say, Department of Defense and particular intelligence agencies and
They had
things
like
like
border
that.
contracts and things like this.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Border contracts. Increasingly, they have been moving out into more like, I guess, what we would consider like civilian use cases or whatnot. So they're trying to get a lot of access to health data. They had a contract with the NHS in the UK that was very controversial. And of course, now they are bidding for contracts with health in the United States and trying to get access to a lot of that health data too.
I didn't want to know all that because now I'm
Sorry,
depressed.
should have left out that last piece.
Yeah, leave out that last. Okay, well, so this is how, like, people who stand to gain from an Elon Musk presidency, let's call it what it is, or Doge, this is how they are excusing it. So here's Alex Karp on Squawk.
Point, given the fraud, waste, and abuse we know is there, 90% of the country's like, get rid of that fraud, waste, and abuse. And I just view this as yet another example of the progressive left boxing themselves into a suicide dance. Now, what the progressive left should be doing is saying, okay, Elon, you're clearly the most qualified person in the world to do something like this. We want to.
Okay, wait. Why? What has he ever done that's been like this before? Other than
there's
tanking
no
Twitter,
reason to believe this.
You're the most qualified. Who says? In what way? Clearly, he has no experience with government bureaucracy other than getting government contracts. Is he a good manager? Has he done anything like that? No, he hasn't. So, okay, this is so Palantir ahead is like, also the progressive left is boxing us. Just take it. Just work with it. Just give him all your federal employees. Just let him fire everybody. Come on, meet him halfway / on his turf. Let's finish it.
Dialogue with you about how you're doing and what are you doing. I don't believe that's actually what happened. And again, I like Elon. I know I think he's obviously the most important builder in the world. And I just think, if you want to say my former side, I don't believe that they're actually engaging. Biggest problem in this society from my perspective is legitimacy of our institutions. Why aren't they legitimate? They're not legitimate because, okay, do any of you really believe that 99% of your taxpayer dollars are being spent? But last and not least, and
what? You don't even know what you're saying, dog. I could tell
can't even
because
finish
how
a sentence.
how you suspend. And anyway, does anyone believe? And he's doing the, like, as a Democrat, as a former Democrat. So I'll finish him out.
Probably, arguably, most importantly, there's two revolutions happening. One is transparency and one is AI. Okay, so why is it that we do not know where every penny of our money goes? Like, how do you explain that to people? And by the way, slightly more technically, what large language models do is they mean you can go into the contracts and see exactly what happened. So in the past, we couldn't do this. Now we can. The right response is, we want this to happen. We want to happen. We want to be involved in the dialogue. The real response is, it feels like the people criticizing Elon don't want it to happen. And this is going to destroy those people.
This is going to destroy those people. Those people are families who rely on good paying government jobs to support their communities. These people are people that work in the parks, right? These people are people like us, people who receive Social Security checks, Meals on Wheels, SNAP. These people are people who are on Medicaid. Like, so Paris, these are the kinds of, like, elitist blowhards who are being asked for their professional opinion on CNBC to say, well, it's the left's fault for not just letting Elon do it. But give me your, like, how do you interpret that, what he's doing?
Yeah, so I kind of love how he points out that there's these large language models now, right? This generative AI, they can go into the contracts and tell us exactly what's there until they start making up a ton of bullshit that is not actually there, and we're operating off of complete falsehoods. So he, like, I feel like you see this with a lot of tech people where they think that everything runs like a software company, right? And that you can just develop the software, deploy it, and you never need, a bunch of human workers, regardless of what the type of labor is. Completely ignoring the fact that, yeah, I'm sure there are probably some inefficiencies in government, but like a lot of the tasks within government do actually take like human labor, and some things are just not very productive because of just inherently how they work, and you need that like human review and that human like ability to figure out what is actually going on there that a computer cannot provide, right? That an AI system cannot provide and will never provide.
But also it's so unnecessary. I mean, you've tracked how unnecessary AI is, and they're basically just selling, this is a bad, but like, like windshield wipers on a submarine type thing. Like, this is so stupid, and it's all to inflate their own assets. It's all to like make up for the Nvidia stock that, tanked and crap like that. But it's like the Treasury actually was doing a very good job at getting people paid on time, right? It was doing a good job of making sure like money was allocated, contracts were respected. Elon Musk should know that. He's one of the biggest beneficiaries of government contracts. So this is my question to you. Why? Why is he doing this? Because does it have to do with the things we were talking about earlier, wanting to privatize maybe a payment system in which he benefits? I've heard stirrings of maybe turning X or Twitter into a bank. Like, does it dovetail with crypto? Like, what do you think the end game is?
Yeah, the original X company was an online bank, right? And he does want to bring that back to a certain degree. But if you ask about like why he's actually embarking on this project and why Silicon Valley in general is embarking on this project, I think that there are a number of disparate reasons, right? I think one part of it is that they want accountability to go away, right? They want to remake the US government so that these regulators and these agencies are not going after them, because that was one of their biggest complaints and gripes about the Biden administration, that, all of a sudden they were facing these antitrust investigations, and they were facing this regulatory scrutiny. Tesla was being investigated by a bunch of different regulators and departments across the US government. Obviously, he wants that to go away. You probably remember, some of your viewers might remember Mark Andreessen complaining that all these crypto people were being debanked by the
PB, yeah.
PV, yeah, Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. And this was
That they've
basically
effectively
bullshit. Yeah,
hollowed
and
out.
they've gutted it now, right? But they have these like particular issues with these different parts of government that are designed to hold people like them to account, especially as they have become some of the most powerful and wealthy people in the world. But there is something deeper there too, right? I think a lot of these people do buy into a lot of these right-wing narratives, and have become somewhat radicalized over the past few years, where, the tech industry is very much aligned with like the Heritage Foundation and the project that they want to, embark on and have been embarking on within the US government to really gut it in many ways. Certainly, there are some disagreements between the tech industry and, say, the MAGA movement, right? The tech industry to a certain degree is more open to like immigration and things like that. It's particularly skilled immigration. But that isn't to say that there are a lot of things that they do agree on and that they do want to see carried out there. They want to wield the US government to serve their interests. And we've seen that very clearly in the statements of people like Mark Zuckerberg, Tim Cook of Apple, and Elon Musk, where they want the US government to go after regulators in the European Union and other countries as well that are going to target US tech companies. And one other thing I would say on that as well, going back to Alex Karp of Palantir, but also that Elon Musk has been doing and these other folks, is that they also want to reform the US government so the US government, basically contracts from them for a lot more things. We've seen a lot of talk about the US government adopting AI in order to, deliver services and all this kind of stuff as they're gutting a lot of employees. That's one piece of it. But they also want to massively reform not just NASA, but the Department of Defense more broadly, and the contracting and procurement that occurs there, to make sure that, all of these hundreds of billions of dollars that are going out to like Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop Grumman and these like traditional arms manufacturers in the United States will increasingly be deployed to these tech companies like SpaceX, like Palantir, like
they're all expanding
Anduril.
into defense.
Exactly. Yeah. And the traditional tech companies too, right? The Googles, Microsofts, Amazons,
Yep.
they're deploying more like defense AI solutions and things like that. So these tech companies and these tech billionaires really want to get their hands on that like spigot of money that comes out of the Department of Defense in particular. SpaceX has benefited a lot from that on the NASA side of things, and they're trying to displace Boeing even further right now.
And they just gutted NASA by 10%, I guess, 10% of employees fired.
Yeah, exactly. And they say that, they can reduce the US military budget, or they can reduce the spending on these things by relying on the tech companies. And maybe to a certain degree they will, right? Like we can see that SpaceX rocket launches cost less money per launch, for example. But the reason that they're doing that is not to like save money or anything. It is to capture these contracts, to capture the access to those public funds, and to make sure that they are increasingly shaping like not just the US space program, but also the US military and US military procurement and the direction that that is going to take.
Which is why that's the one area that they don't mark for cutting. And the one area that we know needs to be cut is the Pentagon budget. The Pentagon regularly fails their audits every single year.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. We know, the waste. We talked about the Iraq war initially. Remember when it was like reported that it was $30 for a bottle of water in Iraq or something? All, thanks to the American taxpayer. So like we know where the waste, fraud, and abuse is actually in this country, and it's the Department of Defense. But they want that as bloated as possible because they want those contracts.
Absolutely. And they will talk about like cutting it back, right? They will talk about slightly reducing it, but it's so that they can get access to like all those other funds, right? The slight reduction is the justification to displace Boeing and Lockheed and Northrop Grumman and these other few traditional companies that they are contracting with, so that they can get access to that vast, the vast funds that do come out of it. And, while still capturing the rest of the US government and reshaping it to serve their interests. And, I don't think this is like...
people are expendable. Veterans can be expendable.
Totally.
I think the veteran suicide hotline was just shut down as one of the things, because, there's not like, it's not like there's suicide in the veteran community. So like it's all the people. I mean, when you go to doge.gov and you see like all the different agencies they allege to be cutting waste, I just see like people, humans, folks who not only help us, but like, again, desperately need not just the jobs, but the people who need those people to have jobs. No, it is truly terrifying. What's going on, Frantifa? If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel right now. Hit that button. And also, you can become a patron and support the show every single week. Get access to bonus episodes and exclusive merchandise. Patreon.com/Bitchuation Room. Do